Hello and welcome back with another The All Wheel reaction. Today we're going to talk about the 6th episode called The Krill. Well, this episode heavily focuses on the Krill and the Krill culture and why the Krill hates the Union. Before we jump into the episode itself, it seems quite clear now. The Union is the Federation and the Krill is basically the Klingon in the TOS matters. But the one thing that Orville does really well is to explain the races in the very beginning of the series. Of course, the main attraction in the original series was Mr. Spock and the Vulcans, and actually we got to know them in season 2, and the race itself really kicked off in Enterprise. But ever since Orville started, it does a really good job with explaining different cultures and actually going into deeper more and more on different races. Obviously we still have quite a few races to go on, but it's only the 6th episode and we got a lot of covered ever since, and in this episode we get the real enemy on the focus point. So the Krill. The Krill looks like a really religious race, and I'm not sure if it's in every case, but it looks like they have a priest in every ship. The whole episode was really interesting. Obviously we start off with a mess hall scene, and obviously there was a little bit of an awkward moment between Alara and Isaac, but actually Isaac said, "I'm really interested to engage a sexual relationship with you," and it was quite funny actually to have Alara saying like, "Well, actually I'm kind of working on myself at the moment." It's the response what I used to get. Well, anyhow, moving on. At the beginning they got confrontation with the Krill ship, and what I was really surprised, Gordon didn't do his famous hugging the donkey maneuver, but we finally got to see a really brilliant tactical maneuver from Captain Mercer, so he's not a bad captain at all, he's a really good captain, I have to say. And then after that we got to see this Krill shuttle that the Union fleet and Union Admiralty was really interested about. So obviously they got assigned to this mission, they have to get undercover and they have to go into the Krill ship, and they find this book called the Ankara. It feels something like the rules of acquisition for the Ferengi. So they got into disguise and they actually leave the Orville with the shuttle. Obviously during the way they been picked up by a Krill destroyer. The first impression that I really got from the Krill from the first episode is like, okay, they really, the warrior race obviously, but they weren't really menacing. At least that's what I've got at the beginning, and then they were like welcome brothers and all together enjoying one family, and then how happy we are, and then we are just going against every Union ship and fleet and planet. And then we got to this scene in the church, in the temple, where they actually got out a human head from the basket. So they had this really interesting ritual, and the priest started to stab the head with a knife, with a big giant knife. Yeah, that was a bit disturbing. Obviously they didn't show the part because it's PG-13, but yeah. So that actually made me and made them realize, okay, the Krill actually really a big threat, so we have to take this seriously. Obviously their mission was about to get the Ankara and to try to make diplomatic relationship with the Krill. But the Krill had some pretty interesting idea about the humans. One of the female Krill crew member had a really interesting thoughts about the humans as well. Like basically they are computers, and a computer can talk, but obviously it's not gonna be a human, a living being. And while they were on the ship, the cloaking device actually got disturbed by an interesting radiation, and they found out there's a huge bomb actually in this ship that they wanted to use against farmers in a different planet. That felt like, okay, they had to do something, and they did. The funny thing about this, they went there to actually spy on a book, and they found out the Krill developed a weapon that can actually wipe out everyone in a big surface, and now their mission is not just to get the book, but to actually sabotage the Krill's mission. Until the point when they figure out there's a school and kids on board the Krill ship. Now that raises another question. Krill warship with a priest and with kids on board. How the heck is this culture works? This is really interesting. You have your warriors, you have your priest, and you have your kids on board. It's not really a family vessel, it's not really a family environment, but it's a different culture, so I'll take that. Obviously in this episode it was really interesting to get to know the opinion of the other side as well. They found satisfaction destroying innocent people and killing innocent people, but it's not good. But obviously it's a different race, so they have different viewpoint and different approaches to life itself. I mean, obviously if you chop someone's head off and you start to stab a knife in it in front of everyone, that's kind of sick for us, but for them maybe that's satisfaction. So you can't judge a culture by what they do. Yeah, although in this case we're talking about a totally different race and a totally different planet. Let's not talk about what's happening in planet Earth. I didn't really want to go into it, but this whole ceremony and that whole preach and priest and stabbing the head with the knife kind of felt like some sort of group from 21st century Earth. Yeah, as I said, I'm not going into that one. Obviously, towards the episode, our hero is actually faced with a dilemma. They want to save the colony, but they don't want to destroy the kids, but they kind of have to fight with their own life. This is the beauty of science fiction, and this is what actually the Orville gets really right in this case. There's a really deep emotional balance between these two situations. I have to save my own people, but I'm in the enemy ship, and I've sort of got to know them, and there's children on board, and I don't want the children to suffer. Plus, you know, and they will have the chance to actually make diplomatic relations with the Union. So it's a really delicate situation. But obviously, Ed and Gordon decides to, you know, eliminate the Krill crew, saving the kids plus saving the colony. It happens in this order, but obviously with a couple of twists. The very end of this episode was really interesting as well. We got to see Talia and Ed in the sick bay and the Orville, and they had this little, really disheartened conversation. I mean, disheartened that, and in a sense on the kids' note, because Talia said, "What you done today, those kids saw, and they will grow up and they will be your enemy. They will be your enemy." That was an episode in Star Trek: The Next Generation where Captain Picard actually said to Dr. Rasmussen, "If I save a kid in this planet, he might could have become a next Adolf Hitler. And what if they just saved these kids and they will become a leader of the new caste or a new part of the Krill Empire or the Krill Union or whatever they have?" So this could turn actually really bad as well. I don't see happening in a classic sense, because Orville looks more optimistic and more bright, not like Star Trek Discovery. In Star Trek Discovery, I can imagine that a lot of things can happen and a lot of things they actually will screw up with in terms of between the Klingons and the Federation. But in the Orville, I don't really see that will happen in a classic sense. I mean, it will happen in a classic TNG sense, because the show heavily influenced with Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's interesting how you want to make diplomatic relationships, but at the end you basically do more harm than good. So I think the last episode of the Orville was really interesting. In my opinion, as I said before, the show itself getting better and better and better by time. Going into this, I know I wanted to do this review like 2 days ago, but I didn't have the time, and well, this is a bit of a rough time for me. I'm not going into details because that's not this channel about, but it's got a bit hectic recently, so that's why the delay. On that note, please let me know in the comment section below what did you think about the last episode of the Orville, what was your favorite and least favorite moment, or what did you think the whole message of the episode was. As always, don't forget to like and share the video, and don't forget to subscribe to receive all the geekiness every week. And until next time, live long and prosper.